You are now listening to Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell, the voice for the people. Join Richie alongside co-host property damage attorney Hans Kennon as they bring light to the taboo world of big insurance companies, exposing their tactics and fighting for justice. Hear stories from contractors across the state. Contractor Talk, here to protect homeowners and uncover the truth.
All right. Welcome to the show, Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell, live every Monday night, 94.9 FM, 950 on the AM dial here at The Answer. We're live every Monday, 7 to 8 p.m., and then we record, and I would say about midweek, we're streaming. We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, and we're also post-produced, so you can see Hans' Dapper Suit of the Week, for pleasure, of course, and business, however you'd like to do it, on our YouTube page. So Contractor Talk Podcast on YouTube. Like us, subscribe us there. You'll be able to see or watch or listen to every show. Every week, we have a new guest. We have a new show for you. We're sponsored by the Restoration Association of Florida, a nonprofit association by contractors, for contractors and consumers alike here in the state of Florida. So we have a great show for you today. We have a great guest. But before that, we have Hans Kennon with Kennon Law Group. What's going on, Hans?
Oh, good to be back. We took a week off there last week. It kind of threw me up. Wasn't sure what to do with myself at 6:45 on a Monday night.
No kidding. Even though it was a memorial type of a day.
It was, and we'll put those thoughts first, but still missed the time together, so I'm glad we're back.
Same here. And again, every week we have a new guest. So I task you with going onto your phone, pulling up. Most people have Spotify or iTunes. You can find our show, this show, and every show in the past, I would say 5 or 6 years of data there, of different guests, and of course we get extra spicy whenever it gets during our Florida session here, our legislative session.
Yes.
In which it still boggles my mind how these major changes would happen just from a bunch of BS that we've seen go through to cause a fake crisis in the insurance market. Meanwhile, the insurance carriers are just like overloading their subsidiaries, making money hand over fist. I mean, to the tune of, I think, what was it? Was it B in the billions?
I believe it was B in the billions as far as paying the managing general agents, which sounds like a very big deal, a very important job, when actually they're just companies who were paid exorbitant sums to fulfill simple requests like provide copies of policies, process applications, things along those lines. To the extent we saw where some of the insurers had to claw money back from their own subsidiaries in order to pay claims because they couldn't justify why they couldn't pay the claims.
That's wild. All this stuff was in the papers recently. Also, what we saw is a few months before that, and even during our regular session, this year it started in March, goes for 60 days. Next year it'll start in January and go for 60 days, the first Tuesday of the month. And what we saw was still incredible to me, because all this data just came out that suggested, I believe it was December of 2024 finally, where records request was finally answered, I believe through the Sunshine Act or something, to get the reports from OIR, the Office of Insurance Regulation.
The secret reports.
Right. The ones that were left in quote-unquote draft mode from back in the 2022 legislative session, where they made sweeping legislative changes, all off the backs of this information, which was never shared, the inverse of which they were going to the legislators with and saying, oh, no, look at all this fraud. The contractors, the attorneys, the roofers, all of these folks, all of these bad guys are making premiums go skyrocketing high. Insurance carriers are losing money hand over fist. Their main companies were showing a loss and not being able to pay claims accordingly. Then to find out here now, recently in 2025, the end of 2024 to 2025, we start seeing reports come out, start to see that the information was given to them back in 2022. Even before that, suggested that insurance companies were making or changing the third-party adjusters. Let's say you have a claim in your house. The insurance company will hire a third-party adjuster, a TPA. That third party will come out on behalf of the insurance carrier to adjust the claim. They turn in their findings and their estimate, and the desk adjuster for the insurance carrier then reviews it and is like, oh, wow, I'm not going to replace the roof. I'm not going to fix those damages. I'm going to do this. They send it back and they say, hey, I need you to make these changes. Well, they got sloppy over the years. Instead of saying, hey, I need you to make these changes, we're not going to pay for this, we're not going to pay for that, they just went ahead and made the changes themselves. The desk adjuster left the name.
Oh, you're getting choked up with all this information.
I am. I'm almost like, can't believe it. I'm choked up so much. But to find out that their names were never changed on these estimates, so the third-party adjuster's name and information on there, let's say they wrote for a roof replacement, all the interior damage, say it was $50,000. Well, they would end up getting a payment of either under deductible or just a barely above deductible from the insurance company. And so the third-party adjuster started getting phone calls from the insurance saying, hey, I thought you were paying my roof. I thought this, I thought that. And so he was like, no, I turned that in. I haven't heard anything since it. Let me send me the letters that you got from your insurance carrier. So he started comparing these, and this was just one adjuster. There's actually 3 third-party adjusters came to Tallahassee in 2022 and showed them this information. Well, they vowed to do something about it loosely, our legislators at that point, because they're already drinking the Kool-Aid from the insurance companies. And so they then dismissed that fact, and they went ahead and made these sweeping changes, taking away attorney's fees for homeowners, which is huge, meaning that they would have to pay their own attorneys, their own experts, and their everything along the way, putting the homeowner in a very tight spot to only accept low-ball offers or these under-deductible payments, which we saw recently in many of the articles on the paper, saying that 14 companies, not including Citizens, which was number one at 77%, but of insurance companies who denied these last 2 hurricane storms for all 50% or more of all claims filed. They denied all of them, over 50%, all these 14 insurance companies. And so over a 50% declination rate. The highest one was People's Trust at 76%. Above that, which wasn't in this article, was Citizens at 77%, which have 1.3 million policies at that time. They've since then reduced some policies. I think they're under 1 million now. Yeah. But you see that these crappy policies that Citizens were making people sign are now policies of other companies like Mangrove or some other takeout policies, companies that were just incepted this fiscal year. So we saw a lot of fudgery around this legislator over the past years, from the insurance companies, their behavior and how they're treating claims, which you saw in the paper. 14 plus, or really 15 insurance companies, over 50% declination rate when a hurricane goes over your house. I don't know about you, but I get insurance for a hurricane going over my house, like an act of God. That's why I have insurance. And if I was just a number game, can you imagine rolling the dice? You've been paying insurance all this whole time to roll the dice and am I in that 50% range and I'm going to get declined or paid under deductible? It's absolutely ridiculous. So this kind of stuff we keep up with you about along the way. Obviously, I'm very passionate about it, and I still scratch my head. I'm thinking, how could this possibly get any worse? And then, as you know, Hans, it does.
There are points where I begin to think they can't make it any worse for the consumer, and then somehow their evil genius comes up with some way to make it worse. To your point about the independent adjusters, I have a case right now where the independent adjuster went out, found a new roof damage, submitted his estimate. Desk adjuster wrote him back and said you have to take out the roof. So he did. The letter comes out to my client that says, our field adjuster found that your roof was not damaged. So I deposed the corporate representative of the insurance company, and I say, now, sir, we've deposed the field adjuster. He said he found a new damage. So you say the field adjuster found new damage. He goes, well, that's just a mistake. What it should have said was the insurance company found no new damage. And I was like, well, who from the insurance company went out to look at the property? No one other than the field adjuster. Well, the field adjuster went out. So you decided there was no new damage to this property, but the guy who went out there, boots on the ground, feet on the roof, said there was damage. And basically he's like, yes. And yet somehow they won't settle that case. They want to go forward on that file.
That's amazing. I think at some point they had so much, they geared up for this excess, quote unquote, litigation by basically, pushing on the whole industry as a bully and saying, you want to get paid, sue me. You want to get paid, sue me. and almost like giving them big reasons to get sued so they can quote unquote bring up these numbers and saying, look at all this litigation that's happening here in the state of Florida. And even though it's a result of their actions, their slow walking, their wrongful denials and property insurance claims, and we've seen this so many times, it frustrates the good contractors that just want to do work here in this industry. So much so that we have to find alternative solutions. I'm a contractor myself, owns a contracting firm and an indoor quality engineering firm as well. And we see this all the time, to the point to where we say, what else can we do outside of insurance claims to help even out cash flow? And we know some folks in the contracting industry that need to talk to others in our industry that can help them with the pain of that finance, the funding, the collection portion of it, and that kind of thing.
Well, what's funny you see is that I'll call the client. I'll say, well, what have you done to repair this or done some? They're like, nothing. Well, what do you do? Well, where are you staying? We're staying in the house. So the house, the roof leaks. You got mold in your house. Well, we can't afford to fix it because the insurer didn't give us any money, and we can't afford to move out because we don't have the money to pay, because, as you know, additional limiting expenses under your policies, they cost incurred coverage. You can't get it paid back unless you spend it. And if they take 30, 60, 90 days to pay you back, you're putting out hundreds of dollars potentially a day to put stuff an entire family into a hotel room. All of a sudden, that's $5,000-6,000 more. Well, at $100 a day, it's $3,000 a month. You're out 90 days. You got to spend $9,000 to hope you can get that money back to all live essentially in a $100 hotel room.
That's insane.
And we see it all the time. And people they stick it out. Them and their kids are sleeping in houses all piled into one room. The other rooms they can't use. Just because they can't afford, they have no option. At least they feel they have no option. But you're going to tell us why they do.
That's right. And I'm still, I had a client that was in that same position where they didn't have a kitchen. They made a makeshift kitchen in their garage, and they couldn't move out. In that similar case, on this one, I had an assignment of benefits, and my contracting company took it all the way to trial and won. And to the point to where the homeowners were able to go back, get money from their insurance company, made themselves whole out of that, but they didn't know what to do. And that's unfortunate that so many of the laws changes for protection from the insurance companies' abuse and so much on the average consumer. It doesn't know. They don't want sophisticated contractors to run the claim for them. And or to finance their to put them back into pre-loss condition, because what you end up getting is a desperate homeowner, like you were talking about. Like, they're sitting there, their place is getting worse, they don't feel like they can move out, they don't have the funds to do so, and so what do? They end up taking a lowball offer from their insurance company and sign a full release. Right,
and go mortgage your house and take a second mortgage, take out the kids' college fund, whatever they got to do to put their house back, instead of, because they don't have the ability to stick it out. Even though they would choose to otherwise. That's
right. And so there are alternatives in the industry, and a member who is a part of the Restoration Association of Florida has an answer for contractors working in insurance-related claims, and it's somebody that you want to speak to no matter what type of business you are in. If you work in insurance-related claims, we have somebody to talk to. His name is Quincy Wright from Black Diamond Claim Solutions, and this is our first time we're going to try it on a blended phone call and a Zoom link situation. So let's welcome Quincy to the show. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going? How you doing today?
Doing well. All right, it's not bad. I think we got a thumbs up here in the studio. We can hear you just good. Can you hear us pretty good?
Great. I can hear you guys great. Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. So tell us a little bit about Black Diamond Funding, or I'd like to call it Black Diamond Funding Solutions, but it's Black Diamond Claim Solutions. And you know what? Let's just say this is Black Diamond Solutions here. That they really do have it nailed down in this industry, dialed in. Many of the folks that I talk to as an engineering firm are like big tarping companies, shrink wrapping companies that are national companies, or roofing companies, contractors that do big stuff. And they go through the same pain that the little guys go through, that everybody goes through, which is funding your next project. by trying to collect on your current project. And holy cow, that's a lot of balls in the air and a lot of things going on. And so this is where Black Diamond, I'll call it funding or claim solutions, come in. So Quincy, go ahead, take it over, man.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. So definitely thrilled to be here because for me, this conversation is more than business. It's about impacting real lives. So when a storm hits or disaster strikes, most people think, I have insurance, I'm covered. But what they don't realize is that there's a gap between having a policy, an insurance policy, and actually getting funded and getting paid from that insurance policy. Right. And that's where Black Diamond Claim Solutions comes in. We call ourselves, we're like the bridge over the waiting game. We advance funds, we shrink wrap roofs, we relocate families, and push back on unfair claim reductions. So homeowners, vendors, as you mentioned, contractors, as you talked about, all these people can move forward while the insurance world is playing catch up. We're not just about processing claims, or we're more so about restoring dignity, rebuilding futures, and building a helping hand that people never expected but desperately need. So, that's what I'm here to talk to everybody about today. Whether you're a homeowner, a contractor, or just someone who wants to understand the power of strategic problem solving and how they can benefit from this conversation we're having today.
Well, and that's a good point. You mentioned that you can help both if you're a consumer or if you're a contractor. Take us down the path of both, starting with contractors. And so from what I understand, you might want to mention this if you do perform some billing collection activities along with some funding, and then talk to me about then on the consumer side of things, they're in a claim and they're going to need some funding for maybe ALE, maybe other types of coverages under their policy. How can you help both the contractor and the consumer?
Absolutely. So basically for the contractor side, we advance the funds immediately, right? So this is allowing them to not have to wait for any kind of insurance checks. Like, imagine, I always use this example, like imagine a construction site and they're just sitting idle because everyone's waiting around on payment. Well, that doesn't happen with Black Diamond. We bridge the gap and bridge that cash flow gap for them. So work never has to stop. So if you are a mold assessment company, water remediation, anything like that, that has these invoices, we would fund these up front for these people so that they don't have to wait. Like you said, they're waiting to do the next job. We're already funded, and we'll fund the next one and the next one and the next one for these people so that, again, they're able to be the best contractor they are. They don't have to worry about, man, I messed up this job because my mind was focused on, am I going to be able to make payroll? Am I going to be able to fund these other 5 jobs I got? So we provide peace of mind, I like to say. And then on the homeowner side, again, like you mentioned, we handle one of our bread and butter is the ALE, assisted living. So many homeowners don't even realize that they're entitled to this temporary housing. We cover temporary housing, short-term rentals, Airbnb. We even have an RV that some people will utilize if they don't want to. We have certain people who I can't be too far from home, or I really would like to just stay on my property, and if they don't have a large enough family, we can actually put an RV right there on their property. But basically, we pay up front so families can stay safe, comfortable, while all the repairs are being done. The insured doesn't have to drain their savings. I heard you say that earlier, where, they're scrambling to come up with all of this funding out of pocket for, like you said, $100 a night at a hotel. If you're out of there for 30 days, I mean, do the math. You're just going to consistently have to put out that money, but you wouldn't have to do that with Black Diamond because Black Diamond takes the place of that. So we would handle everything for that person so that they don't have to stress, they don't have to worry about things, they don't have to drain their savings, as mentioned. And then even with our shrink wrap, we have boots on ground right now. All these storms that just happened in St. Louis, Missouri, we're right there. These tornadoes that went through St. Louis, Missouri, we currently have people on ground, boots on ground, taking care of people, getting people set up for ALE, as well as shrink wrapping all these buildings. So with the shrink wrapping, basically it's better product, better quality than just tarping. And, we like to say when a disaster strikes, a storm, a hurricane, a tornado, the shrink wrap will seal and protect the damaged roof and everything that's inside of the property. And that's really what's really important about the shrink wrapping. A lot of people think it's just to protect the roof, but the true functionality is to protect all of everything on the inside of that property so that it's no longer being rained on or being leaked or having water damage to it.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And you mentioned being a national provider outside of Missouri. I've heard you talk about hot states like Texas and especially Florida. You guys are here in the South Florida area. Is that your main office? And you are able to not only help folks here in Florida, but across the United States. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. We're housed in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. But ultimately, we are a national company. We can handle business outside of Florida, like you mentioned, Missouri, Texas. We're in, don't want to be misquoted, but we're in a lot of states. We're national. We're everywhere.
I was going to say, I know of a lot of states that you guys perform
you can drive
these
there.
funding services.
You can drive there. That's all I got to do.
Yeah. And so for our contractor friends out here, let's say if you do have the mold remediation, mold assessment, the shrink wrapping folks or whichever, and you do that, are you able to, or you're able to fund them up front, do you take over the collection service on that purchase, or how does that work?
So, yeah, absolutely. We not only fund it up front, but on top of funding it, then we take over that invoice. The invoice is now ours and it is no longer your hassle. So you're funded, you go do your work, and then we have a team of collectors at Black Diamond who their job is solely all day to be on the phones, dialing and calling up and handling the collecting of all of our invoices that's out there.
That's awesome. And you do that even off of outside of the assignment of benefits that recently I talked about the 2022 year of death. It started with the death of the assignment of benefits, which was the best tool for consumers, and where there was an exchange of service that was provided by the service provider to where they would exchange the service they provided for a partial assignment of the insurance benefits for the claim up to this amount of the services they provided. And it took the headache off the insured. And at that point, the contractor or the assignee is the one that was able to further the collections in whatever method that was. And so whether it was collection, litigation, appraisal, any of those types of forms of collection, the assignee took that on. The homeowner already got the services. And most of the times in the AOB days, the homeowner was put back to pre-loss condition before payments started coming from the insurance companies. Mm-hmm. The problem is that the insurance companies didn't like it to the tune that they doubled down for years and years and years, making us the boogeyman of the reasons why premiums continued to rise every year until ultimately they got what they wanted, which was no more assignment of benefits, all of the attorney's fees taking away, any of the penalties, bad faith actions, all that stuff just unwinded for consumers and contractors. So it makes it very difficult. So what they didn't take away was the direction to pay. Mm-hmm. So then your contractors are signing the homeowner with the direction to pay, and then you're able to purchase, say, a portfolio of these invoices and legally purchase them and then take them over, and then you can directly collect from the insurance company. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
And I guess when the question would be,
and we also have we have the direction to pay, and we also have a letter of protection for them, and then once we have that, we're able to, like you say, buy them on a grander scale, and we're able to take care of everything and own that. And like I said, we do our own collecting on it as well.
All right. Yeah, I want to make sure that we all have that here. It's a great place to put a marker for our contractors. This is great stuff. I mean, when you're a contractor doing multiple jobs, not getting paid on one job, expect you to start the next job, and so on and so forth, you are then basically funding your current job, your future jobs, and that really adds up. So what a great tool, what a great marker. Is something that we need to continue to push out with the Restoration Association of Florida of our contractors to ensure that they have this model. Not only do they take over and fund those jobs, they take over the collection of that, which really helps the back end, allows you, the contractor, to do what you're good at, which is sell more jobs, right? Get more work. Now, it's important to have the right contract. And with the Restoration Association of Florida, if you're a member, you are given these direction to pay contracts and the letter of protection contract he's talking about to use with your insured for insurance-related claims. So check us out on our website, www.raflorida.org. Make sure you like us, subscribe us, and everything. You can find us on YouTube and that kind of stuff. And also check us out, our membership there. You can be a part of our member at any level, raflorida.org, We're going to take a quick break, give some thanks to our sponsors. We'll be right back in a few minutes. Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. All right. We're back live at 94.9 FM, 950 on the AM dial. The Answer. Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell every Monday night here on this fine radio dial. The Answer. If you're just tuning in and you want to hear the whole entire show, you can check us out Spotify, iTunes, and on our YouTube page, Contractor Talk Podcast. Our website, contractortalkpodcast.com, has all of our venues there to find us, whether it be on streaming or on our video podcast there on YouTube. Like us, subscribe us there. And if you do like what you hear on the contractor side of things, you can be a member of our association. It's a nonprofit association, Restoration Association of Florida. Find us online at raflorida.org. So today is a great show today. We have Quincy on with Black Diamond Claims. I almost had it. I keep calling funding solutions, but claim solutions. And before the break, it was amazing to hear from him how they can help you, whether you're a contractor in this industry. And when I say that, working property damage insurance claims as a contractor. And so it is a fine art. And with many of the law changes over the past several years, it has greatly changed and curbed the industry as we know it. Years back, the contractors are using a tool, the same tool that doctors use, chiropractors use, X-ray folks, anesthesiologists. We're talking about folks that replace your windshield glass. All of those folks are using what they call an assignment of benefits. And this was the normal way to transact business in insurance, whether it be property, auto, medical, life. All of these assignment of benefits are allowing assignment of that claim that was filed to a third party. Like I said, an X-ray anesthesiologist, a specialty folk type of position would be then saying, hey, I'm going to have you sign this piece of paper on your claim. When you walk into a doctor's office and you say, I'm sick, I need to see somebody, that opens up a claim. A claim number is given under that policy, and then that claim can then be assigned, or used to be able to do so. In 2022, at the end of 2022, special sessions occurred, which then changed our landscape here in property and auto and medical and all forms of insurance. Took away attorney's fees, made it very, very difficult for bad faith, allowing insurance companies to be very bold in their decision making, which then leads to these types of paper or news articles that we started to see pop up, where insurance companies were caught denying over 50% of every claim filed from the two recent storms last year. And storm season is coming up. June 1st started storm season, which was just a few days back. And when you're hearing us live in a few days here, you'll know that storm season has started. They've already named the new storms that are coming through. They're saying there's a big chance that we're going to get hit in the state of Florida. And I'm scared. I mean, when we see articles like that, of over 50%, 15 carriers, over 50% denial rate or paid under deductible. And I'm an insured. I have a house that I need to protect. Sure. I am not saving up for a natural disaster or storm, but I am paying my insurance. Are they going to pay? I have no idea. But I have you, Hans Kennon, that you can sue them and sue their pants off if they do. We won't be able to get attorney's fees, unfortunately. But we'll be able to sue their pants off, at least, if anything, if they don't pay, I guess.
Well, no, I mean, again, and what they've really tried to do over the last handful of years is leave the consumer without any protection. For the assignment of benefits, the attorney fees provisions, gave insureds the ability to have someone like myself or yourself protect them from improper or incorrect decision-making by the insurer, or flat out just lying to the insureds about what their policy said, what's available, what can be paid. Something Quincy said was about we're there while you wait to get the money paid. When I have mediation with a certain carrier, they always want to tell my client how much coverage they have.
Right.
Well, Mr. Smith, you have $350,000 worth of coverage, and then I always say, but he can never get to it. He can't ever get to the $350,000, and that's what a lot of insureds think. They say, I have a lot of coverage. Mr. Kennon, I have $350,000, $500,000 in coverage. But if they have a storm or have an incident such as we're talking about, like Quincy talked about, is you can't ever get there. You can't ever get the money. You got to wait for the money. And at that point, everything gets worse. And then what the insurer likes to do is say, well, why didn't you do more? Well, I didn't have the money. Well, what could you have done? I don't know. And they try to put the insured on the defensive that it should have done more while they were waiting for the claim to get paid. Mm-hmm. And then when a claim ultimately is either underpaid or denied, it's gotten worse. And then the insurer comes back again and blames the insured for allowing these things to occur when the insurer never stepped up at all to try to help them.
That's crazy, man. And it's unfortunate because all of these changes were made off of lies. Yeah. Lies and untruths that were told by the Office of Insurance Regulation, allowing insurance companies to not only get a rate increase, but making them have greater rate increases than what they even asked for on many occasions, giving some insurance companies just broad scope range and just say, yeah, go ahead, go up to 80% or whichever like that. And I'm not lying. And to that point to where insurance companies submitted like Tower Hill, a minimal increase, 10, 12% or something like that. What they ended up getting is 60% or something like that, something nuts, over 50% of an increase allowable by the Office of Insurance Regulation. The reason why you're thinking, why would they just do that? Well, that's so they can fulfill their story of this, rates are going up everywhere. Every carrier is raising its rates. It's crazy. And so what are we going to do? And it's like, we have to do something. We have to change the laws so to have a chilling effect so the rates will go down. The unfortunate thing about the bills that were presented and what ended up going through never had to where there were two words together, premium reduction. Were never together in any of the bills. And so that's, to me, was worthless of a full legislative session and several of the special sessions they had. It was a waste of it if they were truly trying to give relief to insureds. Well, they did not do that. They just empowered insurers to just step on insureds more, take their money, overpay their subsidiaries to the tune of billions of dollars, to where several of them said whoopsie and had to go out of business and are still doing fine under a different hat these days. Mm-hmm. So it's just unfortunate that all of that happened. And so I say that to not only buy some time, but it looks like, Quincy, are we back online?
Yes, sir.
All right, there we go. All right. So to make sure that our special guest for tonight is back up and running, small technical issues, but we've got it fixed. All right. So and you heard Quincy before the break here. We talk a lot about insurance-related claims and how the contractor, the insured, and all of that have gotten the short straw over the last couple of years. And on top of that, insult to injury, a much higher premium for the excessive denial rate. It's like, you're going to charge me more to have a higher rate of declination. I'm not, the math isn't mathin', as they say. And so you, though, have a solution to insureds for contractors, both. And we went in a little bit more in depth, and I asked you, and straight up, I said, so if I'm a contractor, I have direction to pay contracts with letter protections signed by the homeowner. I can sell you my invoices. You'll give me some money and collect on those invoices for me so I can do what I do best, which is sell more jobs so I can bring you ultimately more invoices so you can help me grow my business. Is that right?
Isn't that a beautiful, beautiful situation right there? It's like a beautiful circle right there. Yeah. We'll give you the freedom to keep buying and, selling more jobs, and we'll keep funding it so that you can just continue to keep being productive and growing your business in the meantime.
And Quincy, I guess my question would be
helping more and more families. I mean, that's ultimately the main thing is, the ability to be able to put people in position to ultimately help more and more families and homeowners.
And Quincy, I guess I have a question about on the funding side for homeowners especially, and to the extent that you can help them, do you go collect the bill from the insurer? Does the insured ever owe Black Diamond money?
Yeah.
No, we collect from we collect directly from the insured. So the insured from the insurer, from the insurance company. Right. So the insured is left out of it, doesn't have to worry. We don't contact the insured to bother them. Again, once we take on the invoice, it is our job, and now we own that invoice, and then we're going to work with the insurance company on getting our funding back for that. And again, getting the insured the most amount as well. So again, we do things pushing back, because a lot of times they'll try to even short us. Hey, we have a $30,000 invoice, and they may try to say, oh, well, we'll pay you $10,000 for your invoice. But again, because we're so seasoned, and Black Diamond has a lot of former insurance agents, not agents, independent adjusters,
right.
you know. So, and we come from that industry, so we have so much knowledge. We have knowledge of the policies, so we're able to give a greater pushback and able to recover basically the full amount of our invoice, which means, you know, nobody ever has to bother the insured about anything because we're collecting what we actually owe.
That's amazing. And so how the best way that I could describe it is there's a homeowner that had we'll use the recent storms, Hurricane Helene and Milton, excessive damages from that storm last year, filed the claim, adjuster came out, it's been stalls over and over again, delays and that type of stuff. And you got a temporary tarp on your roof. Every time it rains or a little storm, it gets worse. Now you have mold. I can't afford to do much in there. And so you're left at this space of saying, now what do I do? It's almost been a year now since that last storm. I'm not getting any movement from my insurance company. Most people want to try to give them the benefit of the doubt, try mediation, all this. Next thing you know, it's a year before you decide to file suit. And that's if you do decide to file suit. And then if so, you're still living in this house full of mold. It's getting worse. You're able to offer the homeowner a solution and say, listen, while you're waiting on this, let me go ahead and by the way, did you know that your insurance company owes you for additional living expenses? If you have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, you are owed to be put in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home or alike. You're saying you can drop them off a trailer if they need to. You can put them in a home very similar to one that they have. You can make sure they get all the money that they need up front to fund them while they're going through this up front, so they don't have to take the expense on themselves. All that up front for the homeowner. Is that right?
Absolutely. So that is pretty much Black Diamond's bread and butter.
That's amazing.
You have a homeowner who, as you mentioned, you know, maybe there's like you said, these recent storms that just happened, Hurricane Helene and all this. So they're in these homes where there's, the stories get unreal, man. I get sad sick sometimes hearing it when I got a call to, you know, get all the information from the insured. I'm taking all the information down. You know, how many bedrooms do you have? How many bathrooms? So what we're going to do is we're ultimately going to find you the same thing that you currently have. If you're in a 3-2, we're going to find you another 3-2. If you're in a 5-3, we will find you
awesome.
a 5-3.
That's awesome. And we're gonna take one more.
Pool.
We're gonna take one more small break, and we're gonna come right back with this. So stay tuned. Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. All right, and we are back live on this exciting show, Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. And boy, don't we have a great guest on today, Hans? Yeah. And with Quincy, and so much passion. Just reminds me of like when I first got into it. I'm super passionate. I'm still passionate about it today. I am, and so you know, just reminds me of just how cool this industry is, and how many cool people that we have that are putting their time, their life as a professional into helping out folks in their time of need, which are insureds that have been wrongfully denied or just slow walked in their one time of need when filing an insurance claim. Let's say a major storm or hurricane goes over their home, or a pipe bust that they had no idea was going to happen, and just unforeseen accidents, sudden accidental perils that are covered under their policy. You expect as an insured, as a homeowner, to protect your biggest asset, your home. And so you see the big commercials on television, and you think you're in good hands, you think you have a good neighbor, and you find out you're just not being taken care of. Matter of fact, both of those insurance companies were in the top 14 companies that declined over 50% of all the claims recently filed from the two storms, and just less than a year ago. And so if you are stuck in that situation and you're listening to this today, or you're a contractor and you have a ton of claims that haven't been paid, you're being slow walked, we have a solution for you. Quincy with Black Diamond Claim Solutions, I finally said it right this time, is here with us today, and he's going to talk a little bit more about how Black Diamond Claim Solutions can help you. And so check us out on our YouTube page. If you're just now listening to it, you want to watch the show, hear the show, check us out on our YouTube page. Contractor Talk Podcast is where you'll find us. Like us, subscribe us there. And so we're going to bring Quincy back back on. He's our special guest for today. He's with Black Diamond Claim Solutions. We've been talking about what he can do for contractors, what he can do for insureds, which is help fund the claims, help collect on the claims, making sure that you are put in a pre-loss condition, and they'll do this up front for you. They'll deliver a trailer to your home if it's unlivable, or they'll put you in something very similar. All this should be covered in your insurance policy, but they'll front that for you and collect the money all on your behalf. And so not only does he cover these types of, I would say, funding activities, but Black Diamond Claim Solutions also helps in law and ordinance, Florida Building Code upgrades. Basically, it's where if you have a loss in your home, and say your house was built in the 70s or 80s, and at that point the code was what it was, and now in 2025 the code is different and it's upgraded. So if you have a claim loss, you need to bring it up to today's code, today's compliance and ordinance, or based on any ordinances or laws, maybe HOA restrictions, uniformity, that type of stuff. And so he's an expert in law and ordinance, as well as coverage gaps that could be an issue if you're trying to cover. And I know, Hans, you have many stories about like, oof, man, if you just had better coverage, that the plane that literally fell out of the sky onto this guy's she shed, and him being so undercovered, I was like, I'm still like, oof. I mean, that should have been covered.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, maybe Quincy can talk a little bit about that. And also, he hasn't told us how to get hold of him yet.
Yeah. Quincy, are you still?
Oh, you guys can.
There we go.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to make sure you're still on with us. There you go. We still.
Yeah, I'm still on. So, yeah.
Okay.
Again, we're Black Diamond Claim Services. You can log on to blackdiamondclaimservices.com. You can reach us at 954-408-8983.
Gotcha. And then talk a little bit about coverage gaps.
As well. Every Instagram, all the social media is Black Diamond Funding, Black Diamond Claim Solutions.
All right, you were mentioning that talking about citizens and issues with citizens. You have some firsthand experience, I understand.
Yeah, man. Honestly, that's really what brought me over to this side, to want to make a difference and to want to make real impact and real change and to help people. I worked as a litigation adjuster for about 6.5 years for citizens. Well,
you held on that long.
Citizens claims. I was never
forked tongue.
Adjuster.
Oh man! So you're the guy. Now I know. I wasn't sure who it was before. Now I know.
Yeah,
that only handled citizens' claims, and when I promise you, it used to get so frustrating for me because it's like you would just see all the shadiness that goes on in the industry from unfortunate people like just going out and knocking on people's doors. Hey, do you mind if I go see if there's a leak at your home? Okay, yep, I found one, and just. So, you get the bad with the good because now you have real homeowners who have real problems. But, you have, unfortunately, sometimes you have these bad other contractors, if you will, sometimes. But, man, citizens, some of the things that they would do, I can never understand. Like claims that I would say as an adjuster, and I've been in the industry since 2013, I know these claims should be paid, but citizens is, for whatever reason, denying claims, and they're making their way to our litigation desk, and we're looking at these claims like, how did this even get here? This should have been paid easily. This was a clear-cut claim. This should have been paid up front. Why are we in litigation? But this is some of the things that, unfortunately, I in my time with them, I noticed and had to deal with. I was their number one corporate representative. I've conducted over 530 something depositions for them, and
I bet you it's not easy. Oh my goodness,
very difficult.
I bet. And so, citizens, for a little background, I mentioned some of the stats. They got up to about 1.4 million policies. Mm-hmm. Now, that's only out of 6.5 million HO3 policies in the state of Florida. They had about a fifth of those policies, and that's because it was a strategic way, right? Because a few years back, some of our groups, I'll state FJA, the Florida Justice Association, which is called the Trial Bar, basically in the state of Florida, was really lobbying for, and they successfully were able to cap citizens at a 5% increase over 5 years. Or up to 15% rather. So the first year they can only go up to 10% and then 11%, all in the midst of this crisis, supposedly. And I do the fake crisis thing, but they were capped at this low amount of percentage increase. They're owned by the state of Florida. And you mentioned, you're like, I don't know why citizens do that. Well, they do that because they're immune from bad faith. Yeah. They have immune sovereignty, and so they're unable to be pursued for bad faith, so they could basically do whatever they want. They're Sopranos; they can do what they want. But it's like they are the ones that had a big grip on the policies and could put in whatever crazy crap in a policy, which is for me unfair, right? If you own a fifth of the policies in the state of Florida, by pushing them into everybody else is extremely high and everybody got a crazy increase, Citizens is still low. They used to be the policy or the insurance company of last resort. You had to have 3 strikes to be out, basically 3 no's from regular insurance companies to even get to Citizens. But then over the past 5-6 years, whatever, they just open the doors. They're like, anybody that wants to come in, Citizens, anybody who wants to stand in the long DMV line and get crappy service by a government-owned agency, come on in. And people just lined up, man. It was bad. Mm-hmm. See, like you saw it there. Anyways, but to where they were paying for these cheap policies, but they were getting caps like $10,000 water caps, $10,000 caps unless you use their preferred vendor. Those types of things. And then you saw takeout policies being given to their own entity, which is Mangrove, started in January of 2025. And they basically, they sold a bunch of takeout policies to Mangrove. And then so they're taking over, other people taking over these policies with very little coverage, with all the control being at the helm of the insurance company. And so, I mean, I've always stated it's like having a monopoly on everything. They have a monopoly on the policies. They have a monopoly on who you can use as a vendor. So they control the goods and services from A to Z. That's literally the definition of a monopoly.
And what happens when all these insurers get together and discuss how the contracts are going to be? What happens is that these are called, in law school, they call these contracts of adhesion. And you go, well, that sounds like a big term. But any contract that you have no negotiating power is an adhesion contract because you're stuck with it. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what it is, because when the insurers all start putting in roof schedules and start doing all the same things to limit coverage, you can go from carrier to carrier to carrier trying to shop it. Maybe you save some money, but usually the coverage is not getting better. Now, some are better than worse, and you can spend more money and sometimes get something better. But generally speaking, you cannot negotiate the terms of these agreements. Again, so you are stuck with it. That's why they call it a contract of adhesion.
Mm-hmm. And most mortgage companies insist that you have an HO3 policy, basically a full coverage policy, mm-hmm. what they call it. Yeah. But also that full coverage policy is also non-negotiable, whereas surplus lines is what they call a negotiable insurance policy. You can have this, you can take out that, add this, all these different things, but it's not your normal HO3 coverage policy. Well, some mortgagees don't accept it.
Yeah, the problem with the out of state or the non-standard or the surplus lines policies, as an insured, most people don't know what that means in the first place or what it does. It requires a very sophisticated agent who really knows the policies to explain what that is to you, because you can give something up. You can say, oh, I'll save $50, I'll save $100, and find out that you really gave up all your coverage. I had a policy last week on a case of mediation where they had no wind coverage in Florida.
I've only seen one of those, and that was in Key West after Hurricane Irma. I tried to help the guy out. There were some cracks, and I was like, all right, we can get some earth movement or something like that, or whatever, and I was just like, crap, it moved because of wind. Right. Crap, there's just no way around it. I was like, I'm so sorry, I can't help you. You can usually help people if they have wind coverage, but I can't help you. That's insane. But before we run out of time, I want to get back to Quincy over here. Black Diamond Claims Solutions is his company. He can help out contractors, insureds. He can talk to you about ALE, which are coverages hidden in with your policies that if you expend it, then they will reimburse you if it's a good claim. But if they've been slow walking you and you've already expended all this, what are you going to do? How do I get a tarp on my roof? How am I going to eat? All of these questions can be answered by Quincy, my man, right here from Black Diamond Claim Solutions. So how do we get a hold of you if we're a contractor, you're insured, you're in the middle of an insurance claim, and we need you? How do we get a hold of you?
954-408-8983.
I love it. I love it.
Ask for Quincy.
That's what's up. How can I get you? How can I send you an email, and what's your website?
The email would be Quincy, QUINCY, at blackdiamondservices.com.
Oh.
And website www.blackdiamondservices.com.
Beautiful, beautiful. And some of the other things, I want to make sure we give the listeners what they want. On here, you mentioned that we'll be covering something like law and ordinance, some coverage gaps, some citizens' insurance struggles. Go ahead. We got about a minute here. What do you got?
Yeah, so as far as like law and ordinance, for those who don't know, it's a deep one, really.
It is a deep one. I thought we had 2 minutes. I look over, I'm like, crap, we got 1 minute. But either way, we'll summarize it like this. I'll summarize it for you, man. I mean, Quincy, man, thank you so much for being on the show. You can help out consumers. You can help out contractors. And what really takes my heart is that if somebody doesn't have the money and their house is just devastated, how quickly you guys can act to either put them in a space to where is very similar to what they have. If they have a 3-2, you can put them in a 3-2. You'll find it for. You'll place them for it all up front, or deliver a trailer straight to their property. I mean, why would they not give you a call? And so one more time.
Absolutely. Can I share a quick story really fast?
Go for it. You got 10 seconds.
Great. Okay, great. So this is literally today. I had an insured walk into our office today. He brought his daughter. I had set them up in ALE. They were in their home for 3 months of mold.